Hey, welcome back to the Creekcast. We're here today with my co-host Masa.
Yo, back again.
Hell yeah! And today we sadly have a really dark topic. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're going to talk about the anti-Asian crime rate that's been going up in the past year or so. And yeah, it's a serious topic, but we'll try to lighten the mood, but talk seriously about the topic at the same time.
yeah. So it's a pretty heavy topic, and just in case anything, I mean, obviously, we aren't the best. Well, we don't really move around in such environment. We are two white males at the end of the day, but I mean, we still have our views, and we've done research. So yeah, we're just gonna talk about it and kind of bring light to the subject to anybody who doesn't know. But before the whole podcast, we're just going to go into an ad break. Remember, all the funds, if we make enough, will go to charitable organizations. We won't take any of the money. Trust us. We only have, we're we're closing in on $3 by this point.
Yeah, hell yeah, the $30
Woo!
growing fast.
Thanks to all you listeners. And yeah,
Yeah. We'll see you back after the ad break.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you a fan of the Creekcast? Do you ever wonder how we make the Creekcast? It's very straightforward. Anchor is the number one podcasting site. And that's right, you're going to hear us in every episode until we reach that big ad revenue in order to make big donations. Anchor is the place to go. It is the number one podcasting site and application. I mean, you can make money from it, distribute it. All you fellow listeners, you should already know about this. So it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. What are you waiting for? Come on, do it. Do it. I know you want to do it. Go get Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started, baby.
Welcome back from that ad break. Thanks again to Anchor for making this possible. So, basically, if you didn't know, the Asian community is getting a lot of not only backlash but like racial crimes committed against them due to the whole coronavirus epidemic, since people think that it's the fault of Chinese people that is happening. This is most prominent thanks to the former president of the United States of America, Donald Trump, who basically took the last part of his campaign to put dirt on the Asian community because the coronavirus came from China, and repeatedly calling it the China virus.
yeah. And basically, a couple of weeks, or well, some weeks ago, there was some shootings in Atlanta, and well, that basically, well, it was against Chinese women in different spas, and that kind of outraged the whole background that you just described. So that was kind of like the tension that kind of built up to this kind of moment. So yeah, Huerta, if you'd like to give your opinion on this.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we stand in the point where I don't think we can give any hot takes. It's just flat out horrible what's happening. I think that the major discussion is not whether or not this is okay or is it good, because I think we or our listeners can agree that racism isn't cool. I hope you agree with that. If not, then stop listening.
Yeah, if not,
or
then
don't.
I don't know why you're listening to an activist podcast, but go ahead.
Racism.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really, well, I would like to think that there's not really much of a discussion to be had about it. It's pretty horrible. Once again, minorities are quite clearly being treated unequally. And I mean, yeah, there's a lot to dive into, a lot of background, and a lot of different things. We're gonna touch on some things. Yeah, basically, we can start on the protests that have been happening recently.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I mean, ultimately, we've seen protests before in the past year, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement, and now we are getting to see this kind of movement, which I would say we haven't really seen. Well, it's kind of picking up importance and relevance right now. It's been a heavy topic and a very relevant topic for the past weeks. Um, and yeah, I mean, there are protests in New York, protests all around the U.S., basically asking for Asian Asian hate to stop because there's just straightforward. Really, there's no reason for
Yeah.
us to hate on other people.
Yeah, I think that one of the quotes that I've heard during my research is that it's not one race versus another, it's all of us against racism.
Yeah, that
It's,
that really encompasses it really well.
yeah, a
I think.
powerful message for a terrible point in life in general. Like 2020
Yeah.
hasn't been the year for anyone. But I mean, there's some people that definitely have it worse, and some examples
Yeah,
are the
definitely.
Asian community right now.
Yeah, and this is kind of like, I mean, it's what we've been seeing, especially during this pandemic, where the rich have gotten richer and the poor have gotten poorer, and privilege has kind of like it's really shown during the pandemic, and ultimately a minority like the Asian community is really being. It's I mean it's something that's actually I feel isn't really spoken about as much as like other minorities,
Yeah.
and now it's really grabbing a lot of people's attention.
Definitely. I mean, it's a really big part, at least of America in general. Like the Asian
Yeah,
community is really big. It's not something that you can simply ignore, and that's one of the
yeah,
biggest reasons why they're being discriminated against.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, would you like
We
to lead
can,
on to the next topic?
yeah. One of the major components of this whole racism against Asian people is the stereotypes and the representation in film. As we all know, they are, well, at least in the Western world, they aren't
Yeah,
represented that nicely. I mean, at the top
yeah,
of my head, I can think about a Dr. Seuss book that was basically removed a few weeks ago because it had a Chinese boy with chopsticks, and it was a really stereotypical representation.
yeah. I think I mean, this whole topic I had been thinking about for a while, but actually, one of our recent guests, Anna Kaczynski, in her Instagram stories, she's posting a lot about this, and she mentioned like I think it was Breakfast at Tiffany's, where she can't watch the movie anymore because there's like this super stereotypical Asian guy, and it's obviously a white person, kind of what she called, I think it was yellow facing, which for those of you who know about blackface, it's kind of the representation um, of the stereotype, and it was this guy with like super huge teeth that supposedly like smelled really bad and super exaggerated accent. And what kind of happens a lot, I think, with it's the representation of the Asian community in film is that they're not really represented. So a lot of the time it'll be
Yeah,
like instead of casting an Asian person or an Asian actor or actress, they cast a white person to play an Asian. Uh,
yeah.
and that's like what? That
I
makes
mean,
no sense.
yeah. The funny thing is that now film really depends on not the Asian community, but China specifically.
Yeah,
Once you uh, get the movies there, they make a lot of money. So now you will see much less racist racist stereotypes. Now you will find just that a movie is taking place in China for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, now they're not being represented because we have stories that can only be told through the eyes of an Asian person.
Yeah.
Now it's because
Definitely.
money. Some clear examples can be said about any Transformers movie in China, or Now You See Me Too. Those take place
Yeah.
in China with no other reason that they can make money.
Yeah, and there's also like opportunities to really give insightful stories of the culture and kind of represent everything about it. I mean, obviously, the whole Asian community doesn't just box into China, but
Yeah.
Mulan, which came out, it's like it was
Oof.
recorded in like concentration camps, and it
Yeah,
leaves another,
that's
it just leaves another sour taste on the Asian representation in film. So yeah, I mean that really needs to change, I think.
yeah, and I mean stereotypes are not necessarily a bad thing. They're just like boxes that we put people in just
Yeah,
because for the sake of convenience. But the problem lies when you can't differentiate between fiction and real life, and you think
yeah,
those
definitely.
stereotypes are the entire thing. That's
Yeah, and
where
I
the major
think
problem lies. Yeah.
I think the main issue also lies in like stereotypes. Depends on how you use them. If you use them on a very negative context and you use them to harass the community, well, I mean, it's very different, you know.
Mhm.
Sometimes stereotypes aren't necessarily bad. I definitely think people will disagree with that, but I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh well, I guess we can have hot takes here.
yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I
If
can
you
see
disagree,
why.
yeah, if you disagree, you can tell us in our Instagram at
Yeah,
the_crickets.
shameless plug.
Yeah, I mean, we need the views, man.
Yeah, man, please.
Do it.
um,
Tell us why we're wrong, and we'll have a playful discussion.
yeah, and I mean, this definitely leads on to the next point, which the stereotype has really taken form during the pandemic. I mean, starting off in China, and that kind of, as you mentioned before,
Yeah.
led the ex president of the United States, Donald Trump, to really kind of keen on that point and call it the Asian virus. And ultimately, that leaves a very negative connotation on people and their perception of Asians, and it kind of amplifies the stereotype negatively.
Yeah, I mean, just type on YouTube Asian guy gets punched. You will get so many videos about discrimination, not only like from many years ago, like from
Yeah,
right now. Like,
yeah,
especially now under the pandemic, that's when it started to go up. And these figures of authority are definitely not helping the situation. Like, thankfully, that guy is no longer in office to say that. I mean, I
yeah,
think, like, whatever opinion you have on what he did for the country or what he didn't do, we can, like, it's a fact that he contributed to the Asian hate community. Like, it really, really drove the
yeah.
point home.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's spreading hate, and I mean, there's obviously geopolitical interest there between the United States and China, and
Hmm.
I mean, Trump just encapsulated it as Chinese, and then that kind of spreads out into the Asian community as a whole, and then that encompasses it and just makes it the Asian virus, which actually we have a small little statistic here about the rise of Asian crime. Well, not Asian crime, but anti-Asian hate, where the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism found that anti-Asian American hate crimes reported to police rose 149% between 2019 and 2020.
That's just like an absurd amount. Like
Yeah, and
150%.
it's
Like,
ridiculous.
holy
And
damn.
and obviously, like, what's the main event that happened in 2020? The pandemic. So
Yeah,
the link is clearly there.
it's here,
Uh,
like definitely.
yeah, definitely. And also, kind of on that note, another thing that when I was researching, I kind of found um, frequently on the websites is that like hate crimes against Asians aren't actually reported, which we have another stat here. According to a 2016 study by the Washington Center for Equitable Growth, a nonprofit research organization focused on economic growth, more than 17 million members of nearly 50 different races and ethnicities are classified under the umbrella term of Asian American or Pacific Islander. So, I mean, to put it easily, basically, it's just like all these different races and communities are just put under Asian. So it makes it very difficult to kind of classify hate crimes. And it's too broad, like it's way too broad.
Yeah, like it's not like something that you can just like pinpoint. It's not like a specific country, since the whole part of Asia exists.
Yeah.
So it really gets difficult to rack everything up. But once again, like, we know police aren't really helping. They're as always, they just stand on the sidelines. Like a few days ago, from filming this podcast, just like old Asian people are actually getting almost beaten to death on the streets because they're Asian. Yeah, it's almost impossible not to see it now. Like, it's all over the news. And like that really sweet grandma, like the fundraiser that they did for her, she told the people in charge to donate it to anti-Asian hate organizations instead of her. So you can clearly see it's not the people, it's the race, why they're being targeted. It's really awful.
It's I mean, it's kind of become so marginalized, and like there's such divisiveness right now where it does feel like it's kind of I mean, obviously Asian hate crimes and such felt very far away, to be honest, and that's probably why they didn't get much reporting, because mainstream media reports on what happens in like the Western civilization more than anything. And it's like the Hong Kong protests, which is not necessarily an example of it, but it's something huge, and it didn't really receive as much media attention. And now that this is happening in the States, it's blowing up. Like, you see it all the time. And it's just, wow, like this has been here for so long. And in 2021, we're starting to report it.
Yeah, it's not like racism was invented in 2020.
Yeah.
Like, it's always been a thing. It's just that people are like watching now. It only took a rise in 150% to people to kind of notice.
It's just like crazy. I mean, 150%. It just boomed. It's like, oh, the Asian virus, boom.
Yeah. The China virus gonna kill us all, and boom, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you can look it up, and you'll find a lot of people who are saying that on the street they're just being told like, go back home, and all these verbal harassments. Yes, a part of as well physical, which you mentioned. And it just stop.
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst part is that you don't have to get out of your way to find these types of comments. It's everywhere. Like on my research that I was doing, I found a lot of people saying like, oh, they deserved it. They brought the virus here. They killed
it's literally one click away and you find all of this. It's not like
it's not a tough research to do.
Yeah, really.
I personally encourage people to try to find this, so they can
Yeah.
see it for themselves. Like, we're not making up stories; it's a real thing.
Yeah, the more informed, the better, ultimately.
Hmm. Definitely. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it sucks. Again, sorry to hit you with the super depressing podcast. The world is sucks, but hey,
But
at the end of the day, we're activism. So
yeah,
a lot of the things that we're going to talk about might be depressing, but we need to like make people aware of this.
yeah. And to be fair,
Yeah,
Anne Makasinski was a pretty. It was like an
lighthearted.
uplifting guest.
Yeah, and we're booked like for the next like
Yeah,
5 weeks. Like, we're booked with special guests.
you can
So
expect big things to come.
big things, not necessarily depressing things. Maybe more lighthearted podcasts, but
Yeah.
no promise.
So yeah, moving on, I guess. If you'd like to lead on with, well, we kind of touched on hate crimes
Yeah.
and reporting.
Yeah, I think like we already did that, so we can talk about the massive difference between Asian woman and Asian male hate.
Yeah.
If it wasn't
Uh,
enough, it not only sucks for Asian people, but we have to add sexism to the mix. Why not?
Yeah, that's classic. I mean, yeah. So something that, once again, throwback to Anne Makasinski, a little shout out. She basically, again on her Instagram stories, she was posting a lot of articles, which mentioned kind of the way that Asian women are perceived, and they aren't like. Obviously, we know that women have it way harder. I mean, that's we've discussed that before, and Asian women are viewed as very fragile, and ultimately they aren't really seen as people. Is kind of what I got from those articles that she was posting, which are like stories from Asian women. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely just another hit if you're a woman and you're Asian.
Yeah, I mean it's not only because it's not because they're fragile women. It's because they're literally 90-year-olds. Like,
Yeah,
stiff breeze could kill them, and there's people actually going on the streets and pummeling them to death.
yeah, yeah.
Baffling.
It's just crazy. I mean, what
Yeah.
goes through your head to be like, oh, that old Asian woman,
Like,
we best
look
get
at
her.
Yeah, we're going to cure the coronavirus.
Oh yeah, baby.
Let's go kill
America.
old ladies. Like, how do you get in your head that killing old Asian people, it's a good act? Like, you're the good guy. Like, I
I
sure
don't know.
saved the planet by killing old people. I'm the good
It's-
guy here.
Yeah, it's like, why are you all protesting? I did you a favor.
Like, yeah, like, come on. Coronavirus
Yeah.
is no more.
So just a small final little stat that we have, which is about women versus, or well, female versus male. Women have reported twice as many anti-Asian hate incidents as men, and as we mentioned, the anti-Asian hate reports of hate crimes are very difficult because of how they kind of encompass it as a, like, just basically putting all these different ethnicities and races into one, as well as they just don't really get reported. But close to 3,800 incidents were reported from March 19th, 2020 to February 28th. And female were 68% of that, 29% were male, 2% were trans and gender non-binary, and 1% prefer not to specify. This comes from Stop AAPI Hate. That's the source, which we'll mention later that you guys should check them out. And yeah, I mean, that kind of just touches the final note on how females have it even worse.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that I'm not happy to say that I'm not surprised, honestly.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
oh, are you kidding? Like, women are getting beaten more than men. Like, wow, what a surprise! Like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
like right now, it's almost a fact of life that women
yeah.
are going to be like beaten on the streets, and it's a really terrible thing.
Sadly, it's not a surprise.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
really terrible all around. Like, wow. Again,
yeah.
sorry for the depressing podcast.
Yeah, if you are like trying to have a happy Monday, probably leave this episode for I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what. I mean, we're just trying to inform as best as we can.
yeah. I mean, the more
Uh,
knowledge, the better, right?
yeah,
Half the battle.
which is why we have to know why it's important. Why it's important to be informed. Why everything that's going on with this topic is important. Why the protests are important. And yeah, I mean, if you'd like to start off.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious why it's important. Like, we're just doing this just to make things clear. If you are a normal person with functioning cells in your brain, you know why this is important. Like,
Yeah.
just to gloss over some of the most obvious facts that racism is not okay, dudes. Like, I don't care what you're saying, you're morally
Yeah.
incorrect. And like, come on, they're human beings. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess people that do that don't consider them human beings.
I thought you were gonna say, I guess maybe they're not human beings, and I was like, oh.
Whoa, another hot take. We should like drop one of those, like someday, just to like start the controversy, like get the viewership.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to bring on a guest that's more like that thinks differently to us.
Yeah.
But sometimes I can imagine that if I contact them and they see that we're a very progressive liberal podcast, they probably won't want to come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not 100% liberal. I mean,
We
it's just
try
that
to keep
yeah,
an open
we touch
mind.
on subjects that are really one-sided. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll work on an episode that can be debated, because I mean, who's gonna debate that racism is not okay? Like, come on.
Let's bring on Donald Trump.
Yeah. Are you cool with racism? Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, we'll definitely work on more debate episodes eventually.
Yeah.
We also need your interaction on social media.
Like, come on. We see you not responding.
Yeah,
Come on.
we have an eye on all of you looking at our stories and then not actually giving us any ideas.
Give us materials, okay? We're doing this for you, for the people.
For the people,
on.
man.
Let's speak up.
So yeah, basically, it's very important to stay informed. I think also part of it is trying to do something. You know, if you can donate, spread the word, do as much as possible to help, because I think obviously, as the famous phrase goes, ignorance is bliss, and I think we should try to stay away from that. Not necessarily with everything. You can't stay informed with everything, but this is very big. This is something that's happening right now. Well, it's always happened, but right now it's really blowing up, and it needs as much attention as it can get, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if you could share the podcast as well, we try to inform people and do our best. We'll also try to eventually bring on different guests to give their hot takes or their opinions.
More flavor to the podcast, but we need your interaction to get more reach.
Yeah, that's for certain. It's definitely easier to gain traction when you have like 1,000 followers than when you have 62.
Yeah, like wink, wink, help. Do the thing, you know what to do. Listening to our podcast is like amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Right now we need the viewership. We need the followers to like make people
grow.
more aware. You know, like at the end of the day, it's not about money because we're not keeping any. I mean, it's like Whew.
Like, I mean, it is about the money, but not for us.
Yeah. But like you say it like that. I mean, yeah, it's about the money. It's just not for us, okay?
Yeah. Just don't worry. We're here to stay. We have a long future ahead.
Yeah.
We have some big, well, some very interesting guests on in the next weeks, as well as we're gonna try to change it up a bit with some video and YouTube and stuff. So yeah, stick around. We have big things planned, and I just wanted to say before we kind of close off that you can help by supporting. Give me 2 seconds. What's the name?
Lo edito aquí, no te preocupes.
Okay. So you can help by supporting Stop AAPI Hate, which is basically a coalition addressing anti-Asian hate amid the pandemic. And they have been massive right now, especially with everything that's going on. They are using their platform, and yeah, they're informing and helping as much as possible. So take action and try to help.
Yeah, every single grain of help really does make a difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, this has been episode number 9 of the Creekcast.
Yeah, baby.
Sorry for the short podcast, but we wanted to make this quick episode to fill you in on the situation.
Yeah.
Next podcasts are kind of long, and yeah. So
yeah, I mean, it's also easier to go on for an hour when you have so many questions to ask a guest.
Yeah. So don't worry. Next episodes are going to be much more. Well, I don't want to say longer, but yeah, a lot more content.
Yeah. So
more content, new guests, new topics, new us.
Spread the word. Try to help as much as possible. I don't know. Send it to your friends, family, anybody you know.
Yeah. For the ones here, happy Semana Santa.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, no more work. So yeah, more quality podcasts.
Yeah, we'll work very hard these 2 weeks for this podcast.
So yeah, once again, thanks for listening to episode 9. We'll
Yep.
bring back more guests for the next one. Keep your eye open for that. Try to follow us on our Instagram at @the_crickets.
And we're also on Twitter. I believe it's at the Crickets1, or you can also look up Crickcast, and we will be there. So yeah, spread the word. Check us out.
Thanks for listening.
Peace.
That's been all. Bye bye.